You'll notice that it took a while for it to shut off. That's because when I take the isolator switch off, the battery isolator, I'm turning off my engines with the fuel point, the anti-backfire pin, not by grounding the coils. So on a de-harnessed machine, that's one thing you get is the benefit of every time you shut it off, you're getting an affirmative test that your anti-backfire pin is actually working, which can also prevent you from hydrolocking the motor. Potentially, there is other ways it can hydrolock. Anyway, if the carb runs through. So anyway, I wanted to stop for a second and point out that this is a vacant property. As it being a vacant property, one thing that happens is stuff appears out in the yard that is unpredictable. So one of the things that I find beneficial to me on mowing like situations like this is having the foot lift on both legs, and I have a bad knee on the right, so it helps a lot. Of course, this is a 60-inch deck, so it's not very heavy, but if you're leaning on a side slope or something, or you're turned around backwards trying to side a line for a backwards pass so that you can control your discharge strategically, then where this foot may not be in an ideal position, this one may, or vice versa. This one may be, but either way, as you might have noticed when I was mowing, I keep both feet constantly on the foot lifts, because there's been times that I've nearly hit stuff, and there's been times that I have hit stuff. You can't prevent them all, but fight or flight reflex goes to the legs first. So when I come upon something that wasn't there and it's going to be a bad blade strike, then the first thing happens is I go sky high with the deck. Then usually I'm pulling backwards on my levers, and then if I still haven't gotten into an avoidance with those two maneuvers, then it's all reactionary. If you have to think about it, you've already lost. You've already missed the boat. You got a blade strike. Then the third thing would be the PTO off, turn off the blades. So and that's one of my issues with the standers. The standers, you just really don't have that capability. If it takes taking your hands off of a control point mechanism, or actually with your hands on the upper station, it's not just taking your hands away from a control point, a machine control point for directional control. You're also taking away a body stabilizer access or control point. So you're destabilizing your torso at the very same time that you're having to make a maneuver to do this obstacle avoidance, that to reach over to pull up on a thing. Or now they say that they're adding the foot lift on the standers. Well, does that mean that you're riding around like a pink flamingo with only one foot for body stabilization so that you can be effective at unexpected obstacle avoidance? See, when it comes to raising the deck adjustment, people conflate two different things. One, that they try to conflate because they don't want to admit the truth, is that the deck lift is for adjustment. So I come upon this yard under that paradigm and say, oh, this is a 4-inch cut. Let me set my thing. They set the thing, and then they go mow the whole thing. Well, they're skipping the paradigm of that the deck lift is for obstacle avoidance. Okay. So when you mow a lot and you're trying to cover 20 or more yards a day, you're just going to have obstacles that were unexpected in the yards. There's no way around it. So, and then another, also with the standers, there's an unfortunate truth that they don't want to admit. And that is, if you could track Now I'm giving away $1 million idea here because I probably won't never have time to deal with it. There's a lot of crews that are tracking their equipment, but I don't think any of them are tracking when that equipment shuts down. When a crew goes out on a lawn, it's almost like a dance, a choreography. You want your stick guy to get done exactly, right when the mower's getting done, and the blowing guy should have followed a route where he's just seconds behind. You want all those things to happen in a sequence, a choreographed sequence for the most efficiency. Now, if you could track individual components on that rig, like as in, not just a GPS on the weed eater, also within that matrix of information, when was the weed eater running, throttle position, etc., whatever you got to do to track to get actionable intelligence as to how the dance is working and whether or not it's in choreography. But you need to know what each piece of equipment is doing, and I think if you could do that, you would find that crews that have added or gone to standards only probably have stickmen that are holding up the crew, because now they've got a lot more weed eating to do. Now, I can't say that for certain, but like when I run over, every tree has a swell over it and stuff, and there's multitudes of times when the objective is to make it look cut. It doesn't have to be all the same height. So when I come up over that swell, I'm raising the deck, and I'm trying to make my machine conform to the terrain so that it's somewhat even, but not put scalp lines in it or anything like that. But there's countless scenarios where there'd be roots that run through or whatnot that you don't set it and forget it. You float that deck over, and since the tops of each blade of grass are cut off, it all looks mowed. The point is if you get effective with floating your deck, you can take out 90% of your string trimming. Well, it would be more difficult to float that deck so on a stander for either reason, because you're taking away a control point or you're taking away a stabilization point, to the degree where I'll bet you that the mower operation is just saying, well, I can't get to that. And if you could track components on the rig, I think you would find that either after replacing sit-down mowers with standers, they're probably having to add stickmen, or their stickmen are quitting because they're overworked, or their route is getting slowed down because everybody's waiting for the stickman to finish at the end of the yard. That's my theory. I can't prove it. Every scenario is completely different. So I don't know. Maybe somebody will, with the resources to design that tracking software and everything, would one day do it, and they would find out whether that is true or not. Well, I got to get back to work. Catch you later. Since adding this, I have not had any back issues. I think the reason being is that when you have both feet pressed here, pushing your back squarely into the backrest, and then you hit a bump, it's not as damaging as when you have, say, a low cut yard. So this is all the way back and your knee is strongly bent. Therefore, your spine might be twisted sideways, and then you hit a bump, and then I think that's what caused a lot of my back problems, because you had only one leg that was pushing backwards, and you get your spine and everything was in it. So anyway, the end effect is it seems that I have not had any back trouble since adding that. I think that's the point where I stopped having back trouble. And I don't use a very good seat. These are not suspension seats at all. The only suspension I have is by running the low pressure in the tires, as I pointed out before, like 6 psi and all the way around pretty much. So anyway, that's something for information I wanted to share. I'm going to get back to work. Have a good day.